Hi guys, welcome back to the channel for another video. I'm always a little bit nervous when I record at my mum's because she'll watch it back and like spot a washing basket in the background and be like, you couldn't have moved that. And I'm like, oh no, we've been exposed, mum. People are going to know we wash our clothes. God forbid. Anyway, on to today's video. Today we are wrapping up what I hope to be the third and final part of this trilogy. I don't intend to talk about Sarah's Day in an ongoing sense. I can't make that promise though. I've done that before, and then particularly fitness and diet influencers have given us every reason to comment on their online conduct, but fingers crossed. So today we're going to be discussing Sarah's response to the ad standards complaint which was lodged regarding her ebook. If you are not familiar with what I'm talking about, there are two videos that'll be in the description box below which you can watch to bring you up to speed. There's too much history. We'll be here for 3 hours. We're not making Titanic, okay? Just like I was bombarded with requests to talk about this initially, more than probably any other request for a video in the history of my time on YouTube, I was similarly bombarded with this PDF, which I will also put in the link so you have the full context and know that I'm not cherry picking. I'm just reading from the most relevant portions. And yeah, just a ton of requests to discuss this, not just her response, but the disappointing decision which came from ad standards. Before we jump into that, I just need to mention, because I've gotten in trouble before and people have missed out, that we have a Conquer Your Eating Disorder Voice course coming up in June. It is a 4-week course with me, taking you through the most important recovery skill that I teach anybody. And it was the most important recovery skill that changed the direction of my whole recovery. And that is dialoguing between healthy self and eating disorder self. When we talk about neural rewiring, I know it sounds all like mysterious and sexy. It's not. There's a very practical way to do it. And this is it. This is the most important function of neural rewiring. So if that's something that would help you, if you have trouble responding to eating disorder thoughts, or it's really hard for you to action goals because you can't move through those thoughts, you don't know how to respond to them, this is the course for you. So within the 4-week course, you have a 1-hour presentation to kick us off and take us through what dialoguing is and what we're going to do together. A workbook that is sent to you at the start of each week so you don't get overwhelmed by like a Bible-sized workbook at the start of our time. Access to a private Facebook group where I am with you every weekday working through your assignments and your goals in real time. There are 3 Facebook Lives and 2 Zoom calls. So lots and lots of time together. They're all an hour in length, and it helps us to really get into the roadblocks and the places that you're getting stuck. It is a really amazing time together. It's one of my favorite things to do with people, also because you see the connection with the group, and there's lots of people who have gone to set up like their own groups to keep in touch, which I think is so beautiful. It is online, so you can join from anywhere. The calls are recorded, so if you miss 1 or 2, you will still get the full effect of, what we're doing together. So yeah, that link will be below. Come and check it out. I'm sorry if there's no tickets there. That's happened to me before, but I'd let you know. Technically, I let you know. I'll look forward to seeing you there and getting to know you over that month. It's a beautiful time together. But we're not here to talk about dialoguing. We're here to wrap this situation up. Ad Standards, the body which oversees advertising in Australia, received complaints about this ebook. Within the document, they sort of outline what the ad is, what it contains, the language, the imagery, all that stuff. And then they have samples of a few of the complaints that were sent through, which really reflected a lot of what we were talking about and lots of people in the space were talking about, in terms of the fact that this really seemed directed at a vulnerable population who were vulnerable to disordered eating disorders, and some personal anecdotal impacts that had caused. And then we have Sarah's response, which I am going to read from, because I think it demonstrates an unwillingness to engage in a discussion and to reflect and to ensure that your business practices are not impacting really vulnerable people. And unfortunately, we see that a lot. This is Sarah's response. As I'm sure you're aware of by now, having a large presence on social media, issues like this keep happening from people who simply do not like me. I don't appreciate that girls who evidently just don't like me, trying to twist my words and misconstrue my intentions. It's exhausting trying to make my haters happy. So I am just going to respond to that paragraph. I completely understand that if you are somebody who's on the internet, even with a small platform like mine, there are a number of people who probably don't like me very much. Some have made me aware of it. Are very clear about that. It's sort of part and parcel of being online. There are people who are going to really connect with you and people who aren't, and people who really are not connecting with you who really want you to know that. So I understand that and I totally empathize with her. It's not nice. It is not nice to have really horrible comments, trolling, really nasty stuff in your inbox or your comment section. I get it. However, just from my own perspective, I was not familiar with Sarah prior to this ad coming out, and I was only made aware of her because I saw other clinicians, other professionals speaking about this ad in a fairly objective, analytical sense. I didn't see a lot of really horrible language being used. It really appears as though those professionals who spoke out similarly were not that familiar with her, but had been made aware of the impact of this ad. So I think she's really misrepresenting some of the more visible responses, like with my video. Lots of people sort of connected to that video and saw that video, and I am certainly not a hater. I don't know her well enough to hate her. I'm not familiar enough with her to hate her. I don't have any personal subjective opinions about her as a person, or really even anything else that she might have done. I'm not familiar with it. I don't know. So I think that really indicates an unwillingness to engage in a genuine discussion with people who can help you to redirect, to ensure that your product, your business is not impacting vulnerable people, and ensure that you are really listening to your audience. If you go and look at the comment section of my video, there are a number of people who follow Sarah who were very kind and very open and had their minds sort of opened to the nature of her content, and this content in particular, that they otherwise wouldn't have been aware of. And there was no hate left on that video in terms of my message, which I was really surprised by. But I think it also reflects that I was as objective as you can be in this kind of situation in regards to her, because I don't know her. I just know the content, and I know, having worked in this space for 10 years, the impact of it, how it actually plays out for people who are, at risk, who are consuming this content. No, we are not haters. I'm sorry that you do have trolls and haters. That's horrible, but that's not what happened. So next paragraph. Of course, I'm more than happy to discuss any issues with my inspiration video. However, if you listen to the voiceover, I'm sure you can appreciate this post was created to be inspiring, empowering, and motivating for women. I'm happy to help in any way I can with this case, or get my lawyers involved if necessary, I guess. So, number of things happening there. I don't know that Sarah is genuinely happy to discuss these issues, given she's sort of put a wall up, marked haters, which is, disappointing, but again, not surprising. And there were a number of women, followers of Sarah, who left really constructive, productive comments. There's a lot of them in the second video I made, sort of giving a voice to people whose comments had been deleted, that were really kind, really fair, really constructive, and were followers of Sarah and people who love Sarah and really wanted her to reflect and take accountability and get back on message and get back to the content that they love from her. So again, it's kind of a continuation of the haters thing and an inability to listen to constructive criticism and just marking it as hate, which it just wasn't. It was, a lot of the feedback was really fair and really from her fan base. The get my lawyers involved thing, it's an old classic from influencers. It really demonstrates like they've reached a point of not being able to tolerate feedback and criticism, and have gone to kind of like that veiled threat of legal action. On with the response. Unfortunately, with a large following, you cannot make everyone happy, and this post was purely designed and created to inspire, empower, and motivate women. As you can hear during the video, we have said, listen to your body, move because you love your body, make it a lifestyle. This is exactly the opposite of what this complaint is insinuating. That's a pretty selective way to represent what the ad was. There was also a call out to a very specific kind of individual, somebody who is struggling with compulsive movement, somebody who feels a high level of distress engaging with food. So it wasn't just for women. It wasn't just for like a broad audience. It was a very specific kind of individual that the ad was targeting and trying to reach. I'm sure that Sarah is not naive when it comes to capturing her audience, and that's her job, right? That's what an influencer does. It's what a content creator does. They make content to engage you, to capture you, to get your attention. And this was a call out to get the attention of a very specific demographic, not just women who engage in compulsive movement and who feel distress when eating. Again, all things that are listed as warning signs and red flags for disordered eating and eating disorders. No one was really asking Sarah to make them happy, just to take into account her level of influence, her level of responsibility, and the fact that she'd really missed the mark with this ad, and really missed the mark in her lack of response until this. So to wrap up, also I can confirm that my main demographic is not teenage girls, it's actually 30-year-old women. I don't have access to her analytics, so I can't comment, but that is surprising. Wouldn't have assumed that her main demographic is people in their 30s. So that was Sarah's response. In summary, as I said, it just really indicates that there's a big wall there that we see a lot with influencers. Like I said, putting all of the criticism and all the feedback into one hater's basket. And in this particular instance, that just wasn't it. That wasn't the case. It was a lot of people offering really constructive, productive advice and guidance from a clinical, analytical perspective. I did that intentionally in that video, so it could reach people and they could look at it through that analytical lens. And it was really great to see her followers commenting and saying that's exactly what it did. I'm not here to hate. I'm not here to hurt. I'm not here to be personal. It is my job to help people see this a little bit differently so that they can be fully informed when they're consuming content like this. It also kind of indicates that this is probably not the last misstep or the last bit of potentially inappropriate content that we'll see from Sarah. So in the ad standards document, they then include their determination with a summary of the complaints, that they have reviewed her response. So the panel considered that the advertisement did not contain material contrary to prevailing community standards on health and safety. Conclusion, finding that the advertisement did not breach the code on other grounds, the panel dismissed the complaint. So I can understand why people were disappointed with the response or lack of response from ad standards. I was similarly disappointed, but I was not surprised. This really highlights the importance of advocacy, of being able to educate bodies like this on how impactful content like this can be on a really significant portion of the population. We know that over 1 million people in Australia are currently suffering with eating disorders, and that's the people we know about. We also know that they have escalated hugely in the pandemic, not only worsening eating disorders for those who are already suffering, but people who are presenting with eating disorders for the first time. I also know that when I am in the field in my position as ambassador for the Butterfly Foundation, you know, we are talking to politicians, we are talking to people in these kinds of positions, and we are educating them. There is so much happening behind the scenes. There is so much networking. There are so many conversations with people in positions within the media, like I said, within politics, that you don't see and don't hear about because much of it, you know, has to happen behind the scenes. But I just want to assure people that there is so much change, and it might feel like it's happening at a snail pace, but it is happening. And in some ways, in really significant in areas, this is one of them. Being able to educate people in these kinds of positions on eating disorders more generally, on how they manifest and how they make people incredibly vulnerable to content like this. So I'm disappointed, but I'm always hopeful. And I always want to share that insight with you about what is really happening that maybe we don't get to see. We also know that there was a parliamentary inquiry into social media more generally, and particularly damaging messaging like this and how it impacts really vulnerable demographics, really vulnerable people. One of the things which really indicates the behind the scenes progress on a policy level was the recent introduction of the law that states that influencers can't be paid to advertise certain products. And I think that really is a huge step forward. So there's little progress and then there's big progress that kind of feels like it comes out of nowhere, but it doesn't. It comes from somewhere, lots of time and work and effort behind the scenes. So just watch the space. And I would say to influencers in particular, watch the space. There are whispers and then there are shouts, which are indicating a huge wave of change that is rolling in. And I think just like we've seen kind of on YouTube, even though policy hasn't changed, this huge backlash to family channels and the potential exploitation of children in family channels, just the community response has really made it difficult for people to continue to make those kinds of videos and make that kind of content, and policy hasn't changed. So our voices matter, particularly when we do it together. And there is stuff in combination with that you may not be aware of that might make you feel like, oh my God, nothing's happening. And then something big does happen. We'll all keep our fingers crossed. Not only that I don't have to talk about this again, but that we continue to see significant change. I hope that gives you some sense of encouragement and some context for, why I don't think that this kind of response would be the response in, say, 4 or 5 years' time, 2 or 3 years' time, who knows? And to continue to critically analyze. Do you know what I loved most about this situation? You guys, oh my God, do you know this wouldn't have happened 7 or 8 years ago? I would have made a video like that and I would have had to log out of all my social media and take a huge break like I've had to do when I used to talk about fitness and diet influencers years ago, because of the level of hate and threats, scary stuff, and people who, even weren't familiar just being like, Mia, what are you talking about? You guys get it. You get it. The anti-diet message, the recovery community online, the power of our voices and our collective work, it has changed this space like I can't express to you as an old timer around here how different it is, how much change has happened, how much progress has taken place. From the bird's eye view, my biggest bit of encouragement is you. That you tell me. I don't have to tell you. You tell me that this is damaging. You tell me that this is disordered. So proud of that. So incredibly proud of that. This community is unreal. So sending you all a ton of love. Hopefully see you at the course. That link is below. All the sort of links from what we talked about all below. And I will look forward to seeing you all in the next video. Prayer for the comment section. Bye guys. Don't call your lawyers.